It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio today. Yavapai County Supervisor Chip Davis and County Administrator Phil Board Don back in studio. Welcome back.
Good morning.
Good to see you both.
Afternoon.
Nice rainy day, huh?
Oh,
yeah.
It's washing roads out, and
roads you may have built on your own property, but the rest of the world just looks so wonderful in Arizona right now. It's so
very green.
Yeah, the forest looks good. The animals are going to be nice and healthy. So I think it's been a nice monsoon so far this year.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it has been. Actually, Prescott's in the lead right now for northern Arizona as far as rain goes.
Really?
Yeah, 97% of what they normally have at this time of the year, they already have.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, you do now. No one's half the battle, Chip Davis. No one's half the battle.
Knowledge.
Why don't you tell me, you teach us about the budget. How's the budget come along this year, and are we set up? Is it better than last year? Are we coming out of the recession better? All that good stuff. Who wants to do it?
We have completed the budget cycle, approved the budget, and still kept it as minimal as possible. We've had to scale down since 2008. We kept ratcheting down our budget. We did a 10% employee freeze, basically as through attrition as people left. We just froze positions and were hiring for about 6 years. So we're finally starting to see daylight at the end, and we're picking up business. Our building permits are picking up. We're starting to see population growth increasing. Sales are on the increase, so I believe we're out of the bottom of that recession and on our slow way back up. We did just complete our budget. County Administrator Mr. Bordone, I think, has some charts to go through. And
Right. I've got some in front of me, so people who are watching or listening on the radio will do our best to kind of explain what we're talking about. And then people watching on the TV, I'll hold up the graphs as we go through them. And Phil, you can kind of tell us what we're talking about here.
The County Board of Supervisors recently approved their final budget, about $199 million budget overall. And when we look at that budget, the overall county budget is made up of the general fund, which makes up 47%, and you can see is from your viewers at home, that's in the blue. But again, out of the overall budget, the large budget approved by the County Board of Supervisors, only 47% of it makes up the general fund, and that takes care of overall operations of county government.
so, and I'll add in on the general fund, that's the piece
What is that money used for?
that we have, that the Board of Supervisors does have control of. That's the piece that runs our county operations, county services, courts. The other 54% of the budget are federal grants, state grants, different programs that come in through special funds, special districts. So those are not so much in our authority, but they're approved through our budget process. But it's that general fund piece that we look at. That's the piece that comes from our property taxes, our state shared sales tax.
This is the money that pays the salaries of all the county employees, and will we go in and see county recorder elections or whatever, come and see you, and you're helping us?
Most of it.
Most of it, okay.
Some of those in those other departments, they might be funded through federal grants, like employee positions. So they'll actually be a grant-funded position also.
Okay,
so
I see what
we
you're
do
saying
have some
there.
employees funded through grants.
So in the other portion, as Chip was mentioning, you have special revenue funds, makes up about 37% of the county budget. As Chip mentioned, a lot of grants come through that. That is a large portion through our health department and other funding that comes through, as Chip mentioned, maybe federal grants to specific departments. And then the special districts, which makes up about 15% of the overall county budget. That's like your library district, your flood control district, and your jail district.
Street lighting improvement district, wastewater districts, domestic water districts.
Yeah, I think you got like Coyote Springs.
Oh, that's not school districts though.
No, that'd be outside of our budget.
That'd be the secondaries.
So that makes up the overall county budget, and a small amount of debt service that is paying off a capital improvement program that the county did.
Okay, and how much is the budget this year?
199 million.
Okay, and is that up or down from last year?
Slightly up.
Slightly up. By how much? Do you know?
About 4.9%.
Okay. Is that average? Is that a lot, or is it very little?
Goes up and down depending on capital projects that are going on.
Okay.
And we've gone down, as I mentioned, since '08. We'd been going down, equal with what the economy was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Our philosophy was that county government should be responding the same as the rest of the world, private industry, families. So we kept making cuts to keep our property taxes as low as possible. Because I've always felt it was ironic that government is the only business in the world that can just arbitrarily create a raise, and its customers have no choice but to pay it.
Right, right.
So our philosophy was we need to be the same as the rest of the world, keep driving it down. We did get to kind of some critical points, though, that we had cut in some of our services so much that as the economy started to respond back up, it's kind of a balancing act. You need to be responsive and in a timely fashion,
mm-hmm.
While at the same time you don't want to overstaff and have excessive costs that you can't justify. So,
like what? What did we hold off on that we're now back into again?
Development service would be a good one.
Yeah.
If you were going to build a house, you would expect that you should be able to turn in your plans for review and have them back to you in a timely fashion. I think there was at one time we had a couple of months that it would take for that to happen.
Okay.
And when you're building a home, you have a higher expectation of performance. So
sure.
Trying to keep that balance is what we try to do.
How do we do that? Let's use development services. How do we bring that up to snuff now?
Well, what we try to
employees?
do is contract a lot of that stuff out until we've reached a point where we've determined you can actually add a position and have better performance, and there's enough business that it's not going to ebb and flow that person would be underutilized.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep our folks utilized fully. Then as it starts to stack in, there are different firms that will do plan review, different functions. We'll send it out to them because we want to turn it back in a timely fashion still. But that may be out of Phoenix or Scottsdale or other places.
Mm-hmm.
But once we've gotten so much activity that it's consistent, then we determine, okay, we can add that position, keep that business flowing smoothly, and then again, till it starts up again, you farm it out. And
are we there? Are we at that point? Because you were mentioning that building permits are coming in now and things
mm-hmm.
are looking better. So have we added people?
We have added people in development services.
Yeah. So.
But we were down to 38% staff vacancy in that department.
Wow.
Yeah, almost a third of that department was removed through attrition.
Mm-hmm.
And the board did approve several staff members, but the director is actually bringing those staff members on as necessary throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to be very responsive to the public.
And when you say attrition, it's people who have either retired or moved on to go do something else. Mm-hmm. It's not that they were laid off.
Well, there was some layoffs.
Was there some? We had a few.
8. We laid off 8 people.
8 people, okay.
And that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's always unfortunate.
And I think this whole recession process has actually been a learning curve for everybody, because cyclical, in about an 8-year process, we have, in our lifetimes, gone through growth for about 8 years, and then it'll be, I wouldn't describe it as a recession, but the economy will slow
right.
significantly and then kind of drop off and last maybe a year, maybe a year and a half, and then you'll start back up on a 8-year growth trend again. So we've been doing that, and we're relatively the same age, and probably since the 40s. So we've gone to adjust that. We've never really seen a hard time. I haven't in our management and supervisor experience, never have seen it. We expect these little drops and these little tough times, and you wait it out and it gets better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
This time it didn't get better tomorrow.
It didn't. It tanked, and it tanked really hard and really fast.
And every day it kept getting worse and worse.
Right.
And then again from '08 until I would say the very belly for us in Yavapai County was probably mid-2012. I'd say at mid-2012 we finally hit the bottom and started back up.
Well, that's good news. We'll take a break. Yavapai County Supervisor Chip Davis and County Administrator Phil Bordone in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
Got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to Countywide. We're talking about the Yavapai County budget. Chip Davis, supervisor in studio today, as well as County Administrator Phil Bordone. Do we want to move to the next graph?
You betcha.
Yeah.
Sure.
General fund.
General fund
revenues. So that percentage of the budget that overall budget, we pointed out the general fund. This is the revenue that goes in to fund that.
Okay.
Lower right corner, property taxes is 39%. That's the primary property tax Yavapai County has.
Okay.
This year, the County Board of Supervisors actually set their property tax lower than the truth in taxation rate and levy available to them by the state. And what that means is County Board of Supervisors every year, the county is able to set their primary property tax at a certain level established by the state that will not increase property taxes to existing property owners. And the board was able to set that $300,000 underneath that levy rate. So.
And we've talked about it before. As a matter of fact, you were just here a few weeks ago, Phil. We mentioned the fact that this county is very proud of the fact that the property tax doesn't move.
Yeah,
it stays low.
As low as possible.
Yeah.
In fact, as far as underneath the maximum levy limit allowable by state law, the board is $6.7 million underneath that amount.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. And then just moving over to the state shared sales tax, that's at about 24% of the revenue that comes in. We did anticipate next year seeing a 5% increase from last year's revenue. And looking at vehicle license tax that the board receives for the general fund, that's 6% of the budget. We anticipate seeing a 4% increase over last year.
What does that one go for?
It comes from vehicle license taxes and goes into the general fund.
And then the county decides where it wants to spend it in the general fund.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And you also have a half-cent sales tax that comes in and funds a portion of the general fund, as well as regional roads and capital improvements.
Gotcha.
So,
should we hit up the last one?
Last one.
Tell us about the blue one. That blue one is massive. It's really unfortunate it has to be quite so big. But that's all about jail and law enforcement. Yeah.
Yeah. That court and law enforcement, this is the expenditures of the general fund. And that takes up, courts and law enforcement take up 48% of the general fund expenditures.
That's amazing.
That's your county attorney, superior court, sheriff, public defender, your probation department, all the way from, you know, constables and justice of the peace.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The general fund does also fund general services, which are not particular to a department. That amount, which is 13% of the general fund, is like your Arizona healthcare cost containment system payment that we make to the state, and the long-term care payment to the state. It's a large amount of the general fund budget. And then 21% of the general fund budget is for internal services departments, which means, you know, the internal services, our fleet, our facilities departments, human resources, our finance, and our IT department. And then the remaining amount, which is 18% of the budget, makes up all those other county departments that people come in and visit: the assessor, the development services, elections, public fiduciary, recorder, schools, and treasurer.
Wow, okay. There it is in a nutshell, huh? Pretty much a nutshell. Yeah. You're looking at me and I'm looking at you the same way. All right, thank God we got Phil, right? Keep all this stuff straight for us.
Thank God we've got a board of supervisors.
That's right, yeah, we do have a very good county. Let's switch tracks a little bit, because I want to fit a few more things in. I noticed a couple of water groups. I guess I don't want to say the funding was pulled from them, but there were two water groups that the funding is not just there anymore. Tell me about what happened there.
The board has been funding, the first group is the Water Advisory Committee. The board has been funding that group at about $107,000 a year for the past 15 years. We have expended over $1.5 million in participation in that group, and it's accomplished many things. It's created partnerships with the U.S. Geological Survey, Bureau of Reclamation, got a number of great studies, research done. And after 15 years, we believe it's time to start applying some of that information to actual change of policy, change of practices, management practices. And so with both groups, the other being the Upper Verde Watershed Coalition, Protection Coalition, we will now fund a amount of money. I believe we put $66,000 into a fund to fund projects, to actually do boots on the ground, tangible projects that produce change. And so basically our decision was it's time to move on. We've discussed it. And
are we done with the studies? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
We've done the studies and we know the information. So we believe the information, and now we're going to...
We did, and I actually read a really cool analogy in Reader's Digest. And it said that the dinosaurs used to roam the world and they gathered food. And the demise of the dinosaurs was when they decided to sit and have meetings about gathering food.
Uh-huh.
That was it.
Well, that's what I've been kind of wondering is when, okay, we've done a lot of studies about the water situation, and we know, but do we believe the studies? That seems to be where I'm confused, is if we've had the studies done, but do we actually believe the studies that were done?
Well, and that was one of the things, you know, the western side of Yavapai County may have different beliefs than the eastern side, and vice versa, but irregardless of those differences, we have a lot in common, a lot of things that we can still do. We can still move with conservation, we can still move with changing building practices, and we can still go with recycling water, and there's just a number of things we can do to start putting into action, and maybe time will heal those differences between the eastern and western side, and we will regather again to move forward, but we need to start doing some action items.
Okay, all right, we'll take another break. Yavapai County Supervisor Chip Davis in Studio Dale, along with County Administrator Phil Bordone. I'm Paul David. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
We need a claim number? When I started taking care of Mom, I didn't realize the challenge of playing so many roles. But above all, I'm still her daughter.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving. We're here to help.
Take my hand and start a brand new day.
Underneath everything we are all people. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hi, I'm Sarina. It's almost election time again. Voting is a very important part of making a democracy work. Like many of you, I've signed up to receive an early ballot by mail each election. But because it comes weeks before the election, it's easy to just put it aside and forget it. But keep it handy as you learn about the candidates and issues. When you're done voting, the rest is simple. Just put the ballot in the white envelope and sign it. Then put that envelope in the larger yellow envelope, just seal it, and drop it in any mailbox.
A message from the League of Women Voters of Arizona.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a couple minutes left in the program. Curious, you guys, any big projects coming up in the county that we should be watching for?
We do. We have a question going out on the ballot in November about the
jail district
approving the board to raise the sales tax from 1/4 cent to 1/2 cent. That'll be on the November 9th election. Early voting starts October
9th.
October 9th, okay, I think I have my dates off.
And we're coming up on our primary, and then the general will be following suit real quick.
So we've been working diligently to talk to folks, city councils, town councils, homeowner associations, any groups, Kiwanis, Lions, anyone we can talk to about what the jail district is about. And the reason that's a priority for us is if you ask the everyday citizen, if you ask any citizen, do you want a sales tax increase? The answer would be no, by everybody.
Right.
And do you want to build more jails? And the answer would be no, by everybody. And so, therefore, our mission is to try to educate folks about what we're up against, because counties are required constitutionally to provide for jails. Our population of our jail has grown to the point where we are going to have to expand. It's mandatory. It's not an option. It's not a luxury. It's mandatory. And so we have two ways of paying for that. One is through the property tax, which we saw on there, and the other is through a sales tax. And we believe the sales tax is the better option because we're able to capture tourism dollars. Folks that visit Yavapai County, they will help us pay that burden. And we can still retain low property taxes. And so we're trying to get out and talk to folks about that and tell them why we're asking that silly question. And hopefully they see and understand what we're trying to accomplish and don't know sincerely how they want to vote when they go to the ballot.
Well, we're out of time, but I do know on the front page of the county website there's information about the jail district. It's right there on the front page. Phil, you were in here a few weeks ago and you did a good job explaining it too, so that's just a few shows back on Verde Valley TV. And then you've got a brochure as well that people can pick up at probably any county building all over the place.
And online, and we have a website online answering questions, providing information, yavapaijail.org. And you can also print the information off of that on that website.
All right. Chip, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Phil, great to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, that's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.